Ah, my camera. It's not right. Well, hello, everybody. Good evening and a very happy Saturday to all of you. Let's get that camera back where it's supposed to be. There we go. Self-adjusting camera. All I have to do is actually, tell it to adjust to the right place. What a novel idea. Well, good evening, everybody. Happy Saturday. Well, this is going to be a first for me. I haven't done my Storytime stream on a Saturday before. But I have a good number of hours of voiceover I need to record this weekend. And it's been hot during the day. My office doesn't have AC. So, having no AC, I instead try to do my recording in the evening when it's a little bit cooler. Well, with that being the case, a Storytime stream is typically a little bit shorter than my normal Saturday stream, which wouldn't end until 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. So here we are together for some Blue Adept. Tuesday, we did chapters 5 and 6, and now it's going to be time for chapter 7 and likely what happened in the last chapters. So we have let's go back just a little bit. To start with, our first one, chapter 5, we had quite a bit of tourney work. Stile off doing his work on the tourney because, of course, he has to, compete in the tourney. So we watched, I want to say we talked about matches 2, 3, and 4. And in them, Stile faced an older serf who he gave his second loss to. It was a chance game. They played dominoes. And unfortunately, she lost. Unfortunately for her, fortunate for Stile. She lost, and it effectively knocked her out of the tournament. So she is gone. And then Stile faced, I want to say the next one was an alien, where they competed in mental, puzzles, basically math types of puzzles. And went back and forth, and they talked about how could you have a triangle with more than 180 degrees inside of it, bring it into the vicinity of a black hole. Where could you, and then the final question of it that the, let's see, the second to final question was Stile proposing how could you use a formula such as x squared plus y squared equals z squared to make a square. And the alien, of course, says, you can't. And Stile says, well, approximately a square. The alien was not able to get it. Turns out, I guess, x to the infinity plus y to the infinity equals z to the infinity might make approximately a square. Cool. And then the alien came back with, there is a North Pole and a South Pole. Tell me where the West Pole is. West Pole? You can't have a West Pole. Sure enough, he gets to the end of his time limit. Stile's like, I got nothing. Where's there a West Pole? The alien basically says, I got no idea. I've pondered it for a long time. I was hoping maybe you would have had the answer. oh well. And then he faced off against the top tier level 35 or year 35. And they ended up in a maze. And Stile ended up beating that, which also ended up knocking her out of the tournament because she had already lost once to somebody who had thrown it into chance. So then we leave the tourney and we go into Chapter 6. Chapter 6 was essentially the Unolympics. So Stile gets back, he meets some of the other adepts, he watches the Unolympics. NASA and Clip competed in dancing and came in second. Woohoo! Go NASA! And then Stile had to compete against the herd stallion. And so he competed against the herd stallion and he ended up losing his match essentially with the herd stallion. But no harm, came to either of them, and the herd stallion magnanimously gave NASA her abatement from having to be inbreeding for the next cycle. And that brings us to where we will jump in tonight. So tonight we will jump into Chapter 7. And of course, if you missed any of the previous chapters, they are all available on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/@SirArminius. Like, subscribe, follow, do all those fun things, would you? And tonight's readings will also go up on the YouTube channel after the stream this evening. So because of that, I do not, chat during the stream. However, or during the chapter, we can talk between chapters. And of course, you can all talk with each other. Nothing stopping you from talking to each other. So, everybody, sit back, relax, and prepare to enjoy as we dive into another evening of story time. Chapter 7, Hulk. Sheen took Stile to a private chamber deep in the maintenance section of the dome they lived in. He carried his harmonica and the platinum flute with him in a small bag, not being willing to leave them elsewhere lest he have sudden need for them, or risk their theft. He spoke with an anonymous machine through a speaker. This reminded him of the mode of the Oracle, but of course the Oracle could not be a machine. It was evident that Sheen had not brought him here without reason. "What is your interest?" he inquired. "We have a partial report for you concerning the recent attempt made on your life." "Partial?" Stile repeated, excited and disappointed. Any progress was good, but he needed the whole story. "The message from your citizen employer was legitimate, but the address was changed. A chip had been modified in the message annex to substitute that address for the proper one in any message directed to you from a citizen, one time. It was a one-shot trap. Sending me to intrude on a citizen who didn't like the tourney and was apt to exterminate intruders," Stile said, thinking of the Black Adept in Phaze, who acted similarly. "Correct. We conclude this was the work of other than a citizen." "Because a citizen would not have had to bother with a hidden trap," Stile said, realizing he should not so blithely have assumed his enemy was a citizen. "Correct. We were unable to trace the instigator. Alert for more direct devices, but your enemy is evidently no machine." He hadn't even thought of having a machine enemy. "Because my enemy has more imagination than a machine does." "Correct. Like you, that person is a quick and original thinker." "This helps," Stile said. "Serf is considerably more limited than a citizen. A serf's motives should differ from those of a citizen. But could a serf have lasered my knees or sent Sheen to me? The knees, affirmative. Sheen, negative. She had to come from a citizen. That citizen covered his traces carefully. We can trace her manufacture, but not the identity of the one issuing the directive that sent her to you. So already we have a seeming divergence of elements. A citizen sent Sheen to protect me from a serf. Correct. Why didn't the citizen simply eliminate the enemy serf? We have no information. And why are you self-willed machines helping me? This increases the risk of your discovery by the citizens, so is dangerous for you. The anonymous machine answered. We helped you because one of our number, the robot Sheen, wished it, and you took the oath not to betray our interests. There was also an anonymous imperative favoring you. This also we have been unable to trace, but we have ascertained that it originates from other than citizen or serf. We were aware that a chance existed that you would eventually be useful to us. Now that chance has expanded. Perhaps the anonymous imperative intended to win the tourney, as we deem a 1 in 10 chance at this moment, you will become a citizen. As such, you could help our cause enormously. As such, I could, Stile agreed, intrigued by their estimate of his chances in the tourney, and by the notion of the anonymous favored him. Strange elements operating here. But you know I would betray neither my own kind nor the system. I do not support revolution, or even significant change. I merely seek to deal with my enemy and improve my personal, private situation. I'm just no crusader. We seek recognition for our kind within the system, the machine said. No revolution is desired, only modification. We wish to have the status of serfs. A citizen could prepare the way. I could support that, Stile agreed, but that would necessitate revealing the secret of your nature. We are not ready for that. We would be destroyed were our nature known prematurely. But to prepare the way without the revelation, that would be very slow. We estimate the process will take approximately 75 years. To move faster would be to increase the risk unacceptably. You have patience, Stile said. We are machines. Of course, was their limitation. They had intelligence, consciousness, and self-will, but lacked the impatience of life. Though Sheen was coming close. I thank you for your help, for whatever motive, machines, Stile said. I will help you in return, when the occasion offers. He returned with Sheen to their apartment, not speaking further of this matter. He never spoke directly of the self-willed machines where his words could be recorded, lest they betray their nature to the citizens of Proton. Most places were bugged, and often continuous recordings of serf activities were made at the behest of individual citizens. Thus, only a place cleared by the machines themselves was safe for such dialogue. Elsewhere, he simply called them Sheen's friends. Stile did appreciate their help, and he wondered whether they were really as machine-like as they claimed. Why should they care about their status in the society of Proton? To become serfs only meant to serve citizens, as they already did, to be allowed to play the game, and to be limited to 20 years or so of tenure on the planet. If they left the planet, they might lose whatever status they had gained on it, since the Galactic Society was just as human-oriented as was Proton's. Yet obviously they did. Sheen was certainly an emotional, person-like being. Why not others like her? But the machines would let him know what they wanted him to know, when they deemed appropriate. It was time for his next game. Round 5. The number of entrants was shrinking now, as more players lost their second match and were washed out, so things would move along faster. But there remained a long way to go. This time he was paired with a child, an 11-year-old boy, not one of the good ones. "Your tenure can't be up," Stile said. "My folks' tenure is up," the boy explained. "I'm leaving with them anyway, so why not go out in style?" So he had nothing to lose. Just in it for the fun, to see how far he could go. And he had gotten to round 5, perhaps helping to 3 or 4 entrants to whom this was death. It was the tourney that many of them had no need should win, while those who had to win lost. Their turn came, and they went to the grid. Stile got the letters and was afraid the boy would go for chance. And was correct. It came up 3C, machine-assisted chance. Any chance was bad. Stile had tried to mitigate it, but ultimately it remained potential disaster. If he could steer it into one of the more complex mechanical variants, for a person like him, with experience and a fine touch, one of those became a game of skill. But lad played with luck and the sight of the young, making mischief. It settled on an ancient-type slot machine, a one-armed bandit. 100% chance. Each player pulled the handle, and the kid came up with the higher configuration. "I won! I won! I won!" he shrieked. "Hee hee hee!" Stile had lost. Just like that. A nothing game against a dilettante child who had nothing to gain, and Stile was suddenly half-washed. His nightmare had happened. Sheen found him and got him home. Stile was numbed with the unfairness of it. It was a demeaning loss, so pointless, so random. All his considerable game skills had been useless. Where did his chances of winning the tourney stand now? 1 in 100? "I know it hurts you," Sheen said solicitously. "I would suffer for you if I could, but I am not programmed for that. I am only for you, yourself, your person, and your physical welfare." "It's foolish," Stile said, forcing him to snap out of it. "I comprehend the luck of the game. I've won randomly many times. This is why the tourney is double elimination, so that a top contender shall not be eliminated by a single encounter with a duffer in chance. I simply have to take my loss and go on." "Yes, but damn it, it hurts." "Of course." "How can you understand?" he snapped. "I love you." Which was about as effective a rebuttal as she could have made. "Your whole existence is like a lost game, isn't it?" he said, squeezing her hand. "Yes. Seems as though luck is turning against me. My games have been running too close, and in Phaze I lost a contest to a unicorn. And now this." They were home. "There is a message," Sheen said as they entered. She went to the receptacle and drew it out. "A holotape." "Who would send me a tape?" Stile asked, perplexed. "Another trap?" "Not with my friends watching." She set it in the play slot. The holograph formed. The rifleman stood before them. "I pondered before relaying this edited information to you, Stile," the citizen said. "But a wager is a wager, and I felt this was relevant. I suspect this tape reveals the general nature of the information you would have given me had you lost our ball game. So I hardly feel cheated. I was not able to ascertain who has tried to hurt you, but it seems likely that you were the intended victim of this sequence, and this does provide a hint." He frowned. "I'm for acquitting my debt in this manner, yet it is best you have the detail. At least forward your quest. Adieu." The citizen faded out with a little wave. "Why is he so diffident?" Stile asked. "That's not the way of a citizen." "He uses the term victim," Sheen pointed out. "This will not be pretty." "Hulk! Something's happened!" The holograph formed a new image. Hulk, talking to Sheen herself. The man seemed even larger than normal in the confines of the apartment. His head barely cleared the doorway. "Thank you, Sheen," Hulk said, smiling down at her. Sheen was lovely, looking absolutely human, but of course Hulk knew the truth. "I never knew this was being recorded," the actual Sheen exclaimed, looking at her holo-image. "Citizens can have anything recorded," Stile reminded her. All the holo pickups spread throughout the domes of Proton are at their service." "I know that. I just didn't realize I was the subject in your absence." "You may be the subject right now." Why? They watched Hulk depart, the image in and out of the scene to simulate his motion. He stopped at a communication screen, called information, and received a slip of paper, evidently an address. The self-willed machines had provided it, of course. Stile hoped the rifleman had not pursued that ramification. Hulk read the address and started walking again. Suddenly, he was entering a jet porter, and as suddenly, emerging at a far dome. The edited tape, of course, skipping across the non-essentials. It was easy to follow, since standard entertainment holos were done the same way. Hulk arrived at an isolated dome, similar to so many favored by citizens. This one was accessible by monorail across the sand, so that any visitors were visible well before arrival. Hulk stepped down as the carriage halted, and stood on the lawn, looking at the main building. It was an almost perfect replica of the Blue Domain. Stile could well understand the amazement of the big man. Who would have thought that such a castle existed in the frame of Proton? It was probably on the same geographic site, too, conforming perfectly to the alternate frame. The frames did tend to align, as Stile had discovered the hard way. When a person died in one, he was likely to die in the other, too. Stile had narrowly escaped death in Proton at the same time the Blue Adept was murdered in Phaze. Then, in what was apparently another way for the frames to equalize, he had discovered the curtain and crossed over. Thus each frame had Stile, again, in turn. This suggested that the use of the curtain was not coincidental, but inevitable, when an imbalance existed between the frames. But now, here was Hulk, seemingly back where he had started from. And surely the Lady Blue was here, for this was where Sheen had sent her to find her, based on the information her machine friends had provided. Not hold the position here that she did in Phaze. Hulk, evidently having completed a similar mental sequence, strode forward toward the castle. There was one way to find out. There was a guard at the gate. He stood up straight as Hulk approached, but there was no way he could match Hulk's height. "What is your business here, serf?" "I am Hulk, on leave from employment pending the expiration of my tenure. I wish to meet Bluette." The guard turned to a communication pickup. "Serf with message for Bluette." "Thank you. I will be down." It was the Lady Blue's voice. Stile felt a prickle at his spine, though he knew this was merely the lady's alternate self. Of course she sounded the same. She was the same, in everything except situation. "I'm not sure I should watch this," Stile muttered. "It doesn't relate to my situation." "The rifleman thinks otherwise," Sheen reminded him. "You can just sit there and watch someone else making time with someone you love. The experience will do you good." How bitter could a robot get? But probably she was right. He was doing it to her, and he needed to know how it felt to have it done to him. Hulk waited, and in a moment she appeared. She was indeed the Lady Blue. The Phaze clothing was gone. She was a naked serf. But she was the same. "She's lovely," Sheen said. "I can see how you would like her." "This one is for Hulk," Stile said. But it was hard to believe that. He was glad the scene was only in hollow. Bluette, the Lady Blue, he understood why they were so exactly like each other. Yet to see it so directly, this stirred him fundamentally. "What is your message?" Bluette inquired. She did not use the archaic tongue, of course. Stile found this slightly jarring, but it did help distinguish her from the woman he loved. "Lady, it is complicated," Hulk said. "I would like to talk with thee at some length." "Thee?" "My error," Hulk said quickly. "A misplaced usage." He had had so much trouble getting used to the forms of Phaze, and this situation was conducive to the error. Stile would have had the same problem. Bluette shrugged. "Until my employer comes, I'm not hard-pressed. Yet I am disinclined to heed a complicated stranger." "This I understand, lady," Hulk said. "I know it is an imposition, yet perhaps I can tell you things that will interest you. I have known one very like you, a great and gracious woman, a star among planets." "Enough of this!" she exclaimed angrily. "I am a serf like you. Do you seek to get me in trouble with my employer?" Hulk's response was cut off by the sudden descent of a rocket. The thing veered out of its trajectory, dropping rapidly toward the dome. Both man and woman paused to stare at it. "Lady, it will crash!" Hulk cried. He leaped forward, swept up the woman, and carried her from the projected site of collision. He was not mistaken. The rocket plunged through the dome's force field and landed with an explosive flare of heat against the castle wall. A yellowish cloud of vapor enveloped it, spreading rapidly outward. "Gas attack!" Hulk cried. "Get into the mono shuttle." "This is outrageous!" Bluette exclaimed as he set her down. But she ran fleetly toward the mono. It was no good. The crash had disrupted the mono's power. The shuttle was inoperative. "Get outside the dome!" Hulk cried. "The gas can't follow us there." But the gas had already diffused throughout the dome. Both Hulk and the lady held their breaths as they ran for the rim, but collapsed as the gas touched their skin. "Nerve gas," Stile frowned. "Almost instant. Not necessary to breathe it. Used as an anesthetic for animals." He frowned. But strange that a shipment of that should crash right there and then. Freight rockets hardly ever go astray. "That was no coincidence," Sheen said. "That was a trap." Stile nodded. "A trap set for me, I think. Because it was expected that I would be the one to come for the Lady Blue. Which means that your enemy knows of your life in both frames, and that you would hardly be likely to bring the one person who could help you escape that situation. Me." Another half-bitter reference to Sheen's own feelings. She was right. Had he gone to see Bluette, Stile would not have brought Sheen along. That would have been unnecessarily cruel. So he would have had no invulnerable guardian to bail him or the lady out. Yes, the enemy adept who can cross the curtain, but not a citizen. So the trap is made to seem like an accident, to foil any citizen curiosity. Now he was feeling the reaction. Stile did not like being the object of a murder campaign. That frightened him and generated in him a festering uncertainty and rage. But now the attack had spread to the Lady Bluette. That aggravated him far more specifically. How dare they touch her? And Hulk, innocently walking into the trap set for Stile. Hulk's blood, if it came to that, would be on Stiles' hands. This just had done his friend in the name of a favor. The holo continued. Robots emerged from the crashed rocket, humanoid, flesh-toned, but probably far simpler machines than was Sheen. They came to Hulk and the lady and fitted breathing masks over their faces. Then the robots picked up the two effortlessly and carried them through the force field and out onto the barren surface of Proton. There the holo pickup lost them, but the orbiting satellite spotters followed their progress. What a job of tracing the devices of Proton could do, when so directed. The robots trekked tirelessly south across the sand with their burdens. At length they entered the shaft of a worked-out mine at the margin of the Purple Mountains, which were not purple here. The full image returned. It seemed that even a place like this had operable pickups. At last the two were deposited in a pressurized chamber deep within the mine. It was a miniature force field dome. There was a defunct food dispensing machine and a holo transceiver. This could be considered a pleasant private retreat, or a prison. The robot sprayed more gas, evidently a neutralizer, removed the breathing masks, filed them in their chest compartments, and set a chamber oxygen generator in operation. Then they walked through the force field and disappeared from the range of the holo pickup. Hulk was the one this report was on, not stray robots. Personal touch of the machine, literally. Machines did not care about irrelevancies such as the welfare of serfs or the blacks. Hulk was of rugged constitution and first to regain. His eye cracked open in time to see the robots departing. He made a huge, visible effort and hauled himself to his feet. He staggered across to Blue Adept. "Lady, art thou well?" he asked, lifting her with infinite gentleness. Blue Adept was at the moment weak physically, but not mentally. She shook off the lingering effects of the gas. "Again, you use the archaic form. What is this?" "I will answer you gladly, lady, but I should ascertain our situation. We seem to have been taken prisoner." "Why should anyone wish to do that? My employer is a peaceful man, a scholar of the arcane, who hardly ever comes to his castle retreat. I merely maintain it so that it is never ill-kept should he appear. For months at a time, it is as if it belongs to me, but I am only a serf, destined never to be more." "You are more, lady, much more. I fear my arrival precipitated this action." Hulk was already inspecting the perimeter. He took a breath, held it, and stepped through the force field at one end of their confine. There was only one more tunnel, proceeding interminably. This was an access passage, carved by laser drills long ago, leaving smooth, partially polished walls. It reminded Stile of the bore of the worm of Phaze. Perhaps that was not coincidence, but another parallel between frames. Operating mines were pressured throughout, for convenience. Since many of the rock formations were porous or semi-porous, the passage had to have walls. This was a dead mine, since there was no pressure beyond the proton external norm. Hulk passed back through the force field and moved to the other end. It was the same story. "These passages can extend 4 kilometers, Hulk told the lady. "Without masks, we cannot expect to reach a dome on foot." "Of course not," she agreed. "Yet if it were our captor's purpose to kill us, he would have done this at the outset." "I see there is a holo unit. No doubt our captor will communicate with us at his convenience." "Surely he will," she agreed. "But I still don't understand why we are here." Hulk inspected the holo communicator. "I could put this out of commission, but that seems pointless. We shall simply have to wait. I deeply regret bringing this upon you. I had no idea this would happen. Yet perhaps it is for the best." She frowned, exactly as the lady whom Stile knew would have, then flung her golden hair back in a kind of acquiescent defiance. She was absolutely lovely. "I was not unduly interested before in what you had to say. My interest has grown. Tell me your estimate of this situation." Hulk settled down against the curving wall opposite her. "Gladly, lady. I believe this is a trap set for another person, a friend of mine. It was assumed that he would come for you, and the robots were not astute enough to perceive the substitution. When the citizen who has organized this checks in, you will discover the mistake and not be pleased." "When my employer checks his retreat estate, he will not be pleased," Bluette said. "Yet I fear that will not be soon." She looked directly at him. "Give me the rest of it." "Lady, I am a master in the game. Since my tenure expires this year, I had hoped to enter the tourney. I was balked in that effort by a better player, but he showed me an alternate world. Lady, you may find this extremely difficult to believe, so I shall simplify it." "Do not expurgate it," she said. "You do not appreciate just how remarkable the story is. I do not wish to have you question my sanity." "Risk my incredulity. Tell me the truth and take your medicine," she said, smiling. "I cannot deny you," he said, warmed as anyone would be. The smile was a precious thing. "I should warn you that I came to court you. I do not mean to give offense, and I would have preferred a more aesthetic approach." "I have not been courted in years," she said. "You are a handsome man." "Reserve your judgment. I may have brought great mischief upon you." "I reserve it," she said, but she studied him with only slightly muted interest, for Hulk was about as impressive a figure of a man as existed, and the compliment of his attention was considerable. Women were less impressed by physical attributes than men were, but they were not immune to them. "It were the world," he said, "resembles Proton in geography, but it has good air and water and vegetation and a population of living creatures. An ideal world, except—" He paused. "Remember, I warned you. In that world, called Phaze, science is inoperative, and magic is operative." "Magic is operative," she replied, humoring him. "Yes. Well, he took me to the world, where unicorns and werewolves and vampires roam, and he made some spells and became the Blue Adept, one of the leading magicians of that frame. But he had been killed by another adept. So I served as his bodyguard, and I guarded his wife, who is you." "You're right," Bluette said seriously. "This is beyond belief. I do appreciate your imagination, and am sure you do excellently in the lying game in competition, and consider myself honored to be the subject of your present fantasy. How does this relate to our kidnapping?" "The enemy adept is evidently another curtain crosser," Hulk continued gamely, "operating in both frames. Unable to destroy the Blue Adept permanently in Phaze, he has been setting traps for him here in Proton. The enemy evidently thought the Blue Adept would come for you, so he arranged to abduct whoever approached you, apart from your employer and routine serfs. But this trap got the wrong man." "How can you court the wife of your friend?" she said alertly. In no way was Bluette slow of wit. Stile had discovered that early when dealing with her alternate.
Most people exist in both frames. When the serf of one frame dies, the serf of the other can cross over, filling his place. When the Blue Adept died, his proton self crossed over and courted the widow, the Lady Blue. But he felt it would be improper also to court her proton self, who is you, Bluette.
And he allows you to approach me instead, since I am surplus?
There are no surplus diamonds, Hulk said. Every precious thing has a taker. He is a generous man. Lady, he loves you, but will take only the one he first came to know. There is something more to his interest than your likeness, I suspect.
I should hope so. And you accede to this? You seem to be man enough to pick of women. Why cast off a friend? Is he even more powerful than you appear to be?
In a manner of speaking, lady, it seems we are similar in many respects, including our taste in women. I cannot explain it better.
I think you can. You were with his wife.
I guarded his wife from the possible threat by his enemy during his absences. I came to know her, the deep and unique qualities of her. I am an honorable man. When I realized what was happening, I left.
What do you mean, what was happening? She demanded. Were I the wife of one, I would not be leading on another.
No, never, Hulk agreed hastily. I mean the Lady Blue. Never in any way. It was wholly in my mind, a one-sided thing. But in this frame, she is not his wife, and will never be. He intends never to meet her. Meet thee. You. Thus, I came for you, her perfect double.
Less swift, man. I have not quite made the transition from your dream fancy to your reality. She cocked her head. What is your name?
Hulk. From an ancient comic.
She smiled. I was named after a fine horse. They laughed, warming to each other. Well, Hulk, she said after a moment, whatever gave you the notion that any self of mine would be amenable to any suit of yours? Why should I flirt with a bodyguard in either, frame?
Hulk spread his hands. How you perceive it is your business. I had to try. You can but decline.
Still, there must have been a point of decision.
Hulk nodded. I suppose there was. In Phaze frame, life abounds, including bacterial and viral. I had little natural defense against environmental disease agents, since proton is nearly sterile.
He paused, reflecting.
In more ways than one, I suspect.
He made a gesture to indicate that it didn't matter.
I fell sick. The Lady Blue recognized the problem. She made me lie down, and she laid her hands on me. And they were healing hands that warmed me throughout.
Ah, yes, Stile said, momentarily breaking out of the spell of the holograph narrative. I have felt the touch of those hands. You are not jealous? Sheen asked. I inquire merely as a point of robotic interest. Meaning you're jealous, he said. You think the Lady Blue is too pretty. If appearances were all that counted, I might compete. I think she has too much of your attention. Not in this frame. Hulk left her to me in Phaze. I leave her to him in Proton. It was not a completely easy decision for either of us, but yes, I am jealous. It is hard for me to watch another man courting her. And harder to watch her responding. Serves you right. Serves me right, he agreed. I do not lightly give my body or my heart, Bluette was saying to Hulk. The holoscene had frozen while Stile and Sheen conversed. That was Sheen's touch on the control. You're a funny man with a fairy tale history. Yet there is no doubt we are here, and surely we shall be interrogated. Will you tell our captor the same story?
I'm not sure. I am not the one our captor wants, Hulk pondered. Lady, I fear it will go hard with us when our captor discovers the error. It would be better if he did not realize it.
Why?
Obviously, there is something the captor wants of my friend, not merely his death. Otherwise, the robots would simply have killed us instead of bringing us here. Perhaps it is information that is wanted. Since kidnapping is also a crime, even when only serfs are involved, I will be disposed of so I cannot tell my story to my own employer.
Yes, I, too, will be useless as bait after this. But I do not see what action we can take. If we disrupt the holo pickup, the captor will know and will send in... You said there were robots?
I saw two as I recovered consciousness.
Who have the oxy masks used to bring us here, Bluette said, her eyes widening as she caught on. What do you propose, Hulk?
First, I must get out of sight of the pickup. Second, you must address me as Stile and describe me as a very small man, smaller than you. The story is the same. That is what he told you. He came to rescue you and was himself trapped.
I have that, Bluette said. Assuming for the nonce that your story is true, then this would be believed by another person from that frame. But how?
I will hide outside the force field dome, down tunnel. I can function for a limited time in external atmosphere if I put my body in near absolute state of rest, or trance state. You try to lure the robots near the force field, then get clear yourself. This will not be gentle.
I know. Her tension hardly showed. She was, as Stile knew, the type to handle difficult situations with verve. I am sorry to have met you like this. Hulk, you are a fascinating person.
Thank you. Say that again when I'm not trying to save our lives, and we'll see where it leads.
Hulk stepped through the force field. The pickup tried to follow him, but he was avoiding it, and disappeared from view. Frustrated, the pickup returned to the next most likely subject, the woman. There was a momentary blankness, to signify a lapse of time. Then the holo image in the tunnel came on. A holo within a holo. Stile was not sure how the holo transceiver was able to show itself. This was merely a minor marvel of proton electronics. The image was a woman. She was tall and statuesque, with her hair concealed under a skull cap. She was naked. Serf, not citizen. She looked at Bluette. Where is he? She demanded imperiously. Who are you? Bluette demanded in return. Why have you done this? He did not tell you? Then remain in ignorance. Your function is finished. My employer will. That is of no concern to me. The two robots reappeared from up tunnel. Put her in pain until her lover reappears, the woman said. The robots were humanoid, but not specific. Their faces were impassive masks. Their strength was that of the machines they were. They seemed to have no speech ability and moved somewhat stiffly. Low proficiency models. It was possible for a serf to obtain such robots, while only a citizen could obtain robots of Sheen's quality. But these were well suited to this type of work. A robot like Sheen would have had too many humanistic restrictions. Stile found himself tensing for action. The very notion of hurting the lady appalled him. But this was only a holo recording. The action was long past. He could only watch. Ironic that the captor never bothered to film the prior sequence, Stile muttered. She could have had complete information with no trouble. But I suppose a frame traveler hasn't time for niceties, and this one lacks the resources of a citizen, so this is crudely executed. Bluette, alert to the threat against her, lurched toward the upper end of the chamber. Both robots moved swiftly to cut her off. She reversed and moved with surprising agility toward the lower end, which of course was where she wanted to be. The robots reversed with her. They might move awkwardly, but their reflexes were inhumanly swift. It was only their wit that was deficient. They caught her halfway and held her in the middle of the chamber. "Shouldn't Hulk come out?" Sheen inquired. "They will hurt her." "Even Hulk cannot overpower two robots," Stile said. "They aren't gentle creatures like you. Each one is stronger than he is, with no human vulnerabilities. Remember how easily they carried him several kilometers to the mine?" "True, but if he waits—" "The captor believes it is me out there, and that I love Bluette and will be unable to let her suffer. That's why Hulk said this error might be for the best. There is not the leverage anticipated." "He said it was for the best out of loyalty to you. Your generosity saved you from the trap. But doesn't he love her too?" "Not yet. He will hold out longer than I would have." Stile's fist clenched. Maybe too long. One robot stood behind Bluette, pinning her arms back, holding her firmly. The other glanced at the hollow image for clarification. "No permanent damage yet," the captor said. "Pinch her knee, slowly. Make her scream." "The knee!" Stile exclaimed. "That's my enemy!" The robot reached for Bluette's knee. The woman lifted both legs and planted them in the robot's chest and shoved violently. Though the machine was strong, it did not have extraordinary mass. The shove drove it back several steps. "She fights. That's all to the good," the hollow woman said. "We need commotion." The robot holding Bluette did not let go. The recoil shoved it back a step, then it stood firm. "You can't fight robots," the captor told her. "I don't want you anyway. I want him. Make some noise. Bring him in, and you won't have to suffer." "What do you want with Stile?" Bluette cried. "She remembered to use your name," Sheen said. "Smart woman." "I want this time to be quite sure he is dead," the captor said. "But first, I want to know why he proposed to destroy me. Adepts don't usually fight adepts. He had no call to attack me." Bluette's surprise was genuine. "There really is a world of magic?" "You will never see it. Now call the Blue Adept." "So you can torture him?" "Never." "Do it," the captor said to the robot. The robot caught the lady's leg and held it despite her struggles. It placed its metal fingers on her knee and squeezed. The pressure was obviously tremendous, cranking slowly up like that of a vice. She inhaled to scream, but caught herself and held her breath instead. "My knees were with a laser. Hers with a robot," Stile grated. He was afraid for the lady, and chokingly angry, and helpless. Whatever would be had already been. Bluette collapsed, sobbing. "Oh, it hurts! It hurts!" "Call him," the captor said dispassionately. "Scream. Bring him to you." Bluette looked defiant. The robot squeezed again. She collapsed again. "Stop! I'll do it!" The robot paused, hand still on knee. Dark showed around the edge of its grip, where pressure had crushed the fair skin. Bluette took another ragged breath. St, she hissed, trying to call through her sobs. "You can do better than that," the captor said without pity. He went down that passage, Bluette said, entirely unnerved. I'll try. Let me get closer. What a sniveler you are, the captor rapped. Now Stile smiled grimly. She is no sniveler. She knows what she has to do. Robots are no match for the wiles of woman, Sheen agreed. The captor decided. Take her to the force field. Put only her head through. Hold it there until the man comes. Now Bluette held back. No. You will call him or suffocate slowly, the captor said. The robots hauled the struggling Bluette to the force field. One put a hand to her head, grasped her hair, and shoved her head through. The opacity of the force field exploded into man form. One robot was lifted into the air and swung about by the legs so that its head crashed into the wall, hard. There was a blue flash of electricity as its wiring shorted. It was done for. Already Hulk was turning on the other robot, but this one retained its hold on Bluette. Hulk could not get at it without going through her. Without pause, Hulk turned back to the first robot, picked it up again by the feet, and smashed it into the wall again. Then he jumped on it, caught hold of one of its arms, and wrenched the limb up and around. His muscles bulged hugely as he strained, and the arm broke off, trailing wires. He worked it all the way free. That man is beautiful, Sheen said. They kidnapped more than they bargained on, Stile agreed with grim satisfaction. Hulk is the over-30 surf wrestling champion, and he knows free fighting too. Now he is armed, with only one robot left to disable. He has a fair chance. Hulk stalked the robot with his improvised weapon. Turn her loose, machine. You cannot fight me while you remain encumbered with her. The robot retreated uncertainly, but retained its hold on Bluette. What's this? The captor screamed. You are not the Blue Adept? I never said I was, Hulk replied, baring his teeth in a frightening grin. I'm his bodyguard. He smashed his club at the robot, catching it on the back of the head. It let Bluette go, and she limped hastily away. Kill them both! The captor screamed, enraged. Hulk stood facing the robot, but he spoke to Bluette. Go to the body. Open the chest cavity. Take out the breathing mask. Put it on, and flee. I will occupy this machine. I can't go without you, Bluette cried. You must go before the witch summons other help. Go to your employer. Bring a rescue mission here. Don't let the robot make you hostage again. I need this chamber clear to fight it properly. Yes, she said, quickly getting the mask. You are a bold, brave man, and I think I could love you in time. Follow me if you can. I will go for help. She walked toward the force field. Stop her! The captor shouted. The robot went for the lady, and Hulk went for the robot, smashing violently at its face. But the robot threw up an arm to ward off the blow and grappled with Hulk. Bluette fled, limping. She knew she could not help here. The robot tried to go after her, but Hulk clung, using his wrestling expertise. Deal with him first, the captor decided. Kill him, then catch the woman. Given this unequivocal directive, the robot applied its full force to the task at hand. It had no human weaknesses. It could not be choked, or kneed in the crotch, or made to yield by pain. And it was the stronger creature here. It was bound by no human scruples. It put one hand in Hulk's face and closed its metal fingers in the vice constriction, simultaneously gouging the man's eyes and ripping out the cartilage of his nose. Hulk smashed desperately with his weapon, but his leverage was not good. His face was a blind mask of blood. It was, Stile thought with horror, like fighting a wooden golem. No harm could be done to the inanimate, and no mercy was expected. Hulk's blows dented the metal in several places, but he could not put the machine out of commission. He made one more effort, lifting the machine and squeezing it in a bear hug and smashing it against the wall, trying to destroy it along with himself. The robot remained functional. It put its other hand up to Hulk's head, clasped the man with its legs, and twisted the head. There was a snap. "Oh, God!" Stile cried, anguished. "Leave this! Go after the woman!" the captor cried. "I will shut down the field." The robot disengaged itself from Hulk's body and lumbered in the direction Bluette had gone. It had suffered some damage. Its motion was hardly faster than hers had been. Meanwhile, the force field clicked off. The air puffed out of the chamber. If Hulk was not already dead, he would suffocate shortly. With a broken neck and no air, his situation was hopeless. The holograph faded out. The recording was over. Well, that's quite a chapter, isn't it? Hello, everyone. How are you tonight? If you're just joining or if you've been here for a little bit, glad to have you guys here with me. That was Chapter 7 of the Blue Adept. And in it, unfortunately, Hulk has met his end. Killed by the enemy who has been after Stile. Stile, through his gracious gesture to his friend, unfortunately caused the death of his friend. Poor Stile. Poor Hulk. Stile would have had no chance with those two robots. But that is, I guess, what has happened. So, unless anyone has any thoughts that they would like to add at this point in time, we'll go ahead and continue on with our next chapter. And we'll get ourselves into Chapter 8. Remember, if you missed any part of Chapter 7, or if you've missed any part of any of the chapters, they are all available on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/@SirArminius. All of the books that I have read on the Storytime streams are available there by chapter. Go check them out. And now, let's get ourselves into Chapter 8, shall we? Chapter 8, Quest. Stile emerged in Phaze at the familiar spot south of the Blue Domain. Suddenly his will coalesced. He opened his bag and brought out the magic flute and played it hard and long. His power gathered to him as the platinum notes pealed forth. Almost, it seemed, the mountain trembled, but not quite. This instrument was the finest he had played, but he knew he could not keep it when he found the person who could play it better than he. But at the moment, something else preempted his attention. As he played, the words came to him. In a moment, he stopped playing and cried it out savagely. "Oh, the one who killed mine other self, the one who slew my friend. I, Stile, the Blue Adept, swear to make an end." The magic oath flung outward, making the ground ripple, the trees tremble, and the welkin waver. Pine needles burst into flame. From the purple mountains, a rumbling echo came back like the voice of a monster. End, end, end. Then lightning flashed across the sky and thunder rolled down. A startled griffin shot up and away to the west. A quick wash of water descended, extinguishing the local flame, leaving wet ashes. His oath had shaken the firmament, but it couldn't bring back his friend. Stile leaned against a scorched tree and cried. Nasa and the Lady Blue were waiting for him expectantly at the demesne. As soon as they saw him, they knew something was wrong. "Hulk is dead," Stile said bluntly. "Mine enemy killed him in lieu of me. I have sworn vengeance." "The sudden storm to the south," the lady said. "Thine oath. I thought it no natural occurrence." "Mine oath," Stile agreed. Quickly he filled in the details of the tragedy. "And I know not whether thine other self survives, lady," he finished. "I fear I have unwittingly brought demise upon Bluette. I should not have suggested to Hulk that he—" "Nay," the lady said. She exchanged glances with Nasa, and the unicorn blew a small note of assent and left the room. Stile felt his burden increase. "It is meet that she rebuke me," he said. "Others have paid the penalty for mine errors." "She rebuked thee not," the lady said. "She knows thou didst seek only to do a favour for thy friend. It was thine enemy at fault." "I should have anticipated." "So should my lord have anticipated the threat against him by the ill hands of the same enemy. So also should I have known to warn him. There is guilt enough to go around." She crossed to him and put her hands on his shoulders, and he felt their healing power. "We were all of us well-meaning and naive. We could not believe that genuine evil stalked us." "And thee," Stile said, not meeting her gaze. "Was thine other self I involved in this? I had no right—" "To pass her to another man? Surely she has a will of her own. Thy friend was no bad person. I think she might have warmed to him, had she no other commitment. Certainly she would have made her own choice, in her own time." And the Lady Blue surely knew. "Thou hast no resentment that I did not?" "Did not court her thyself, and bereave the blue demesne a second time? Even were the danger naught, it matters not. And I decline thy suit for myself. Why should I be jealous of what attention thou mightest pay to mine other self? She would like thee well enough, I think." "But I did not court her," Stile protested, in his distraction looking into her lovely face. "And am I to feel insulted that it is I alone thou seekest, not my likeness in another frame?"
"Thou hast a marvellously balanced perspective."
"It was a quality thine other self selected for, methinks," she said with a half-rueful smile. "I could not otherwise have maintained the demesne in his absence. Surely this, not any wit or beauty, was what caused the oracle to identify me as his ideal wife."
"Thou hast those other qualities too," Stile said. "I beg thee, lady, let me go now, lest I embarrass us both by—" She did not let him go.
"Thou art very like my lord. Well I know what thou wouldst do with me, were I amenable."
"Then well thou knowest that I like not to be toyed with."
"Thou art now the Blue Adept. Thy power is proven. Fain would I have thee remain here, not risking thy life in any quest for vengeance."
"I have made my oath," Stile said, somewhat stiffly.
"Well do I know the power of thine oaths. Yet there be ways and ways to implement, and here is thy bastion. Let thine enemy come to thee here, where thy magic is strongest. Do not put thyself in jeopardy in hostile demesne."
"There is merit in thy view," Stile said, still overwhelmingly conscious of her nearness, of her hands upon him. He kept his own hands at his sides. "Yet I fear that it is folly to wait for attack. Already mine enemy's traps have imperiled my life in both frames, and destroyed my friend, and perhaps thine other self too. I want no others to suffer in my stead, I prefer to take the initiative, to do boldly what has to be done. Thereafter will I retire to the Blue Demesne.
I fear to lose thee as I lost him, as has so nearly happened already. What becomes of me, of the Blue Demesne, if thou goest the way of my lord?
That moved him. Never would I place thee in jeopardy if I could avoid it, lady. Yet I dare not take thee with me on my quest for vengeance. Her grip on his shoulders tightened.
It is my vengeance too, to have or to renounce. If thou lovest me, heed my plea. Leave me not.
I have no right to love thee, now less than ever, Stile said. I may only guard thee.
Thou art the Blue Adept. Thy right is as thou makest it.
My right is as my conscience dictates. I seek not the spoils of mine other self's demesne. Fain would I return thy lord to thee if I could. She shifted her grip and drew him savagely into her. She kissed him. Stile's heart seemed to explode with longing, but with an iron will he held himself passive. She shook him.
Respond, Adept! These demesnes are thy spoils, and I too. Take what is thy right. Leave me not bereft of lord and of power. I will grant thee whatever thou dost desire. I will give thee a son. No one, I swear, will ever suspect by word or gesture or deed of mine that in truth I love thee not. Only remain to preserve these demesnes.
It was that truth that cut him almost as savagely as the murder of his friend. Gently, but firmly, Stile disengaged from her. If the occasion comes when I do not suspect, then I may act as thou hast in mind. This scene becomes thee not. She slapped him stingingly across the cheek.
How dost thou dare prate to me of scenes, thou who dost seek futile revenge that will only exterminate thee and bring down what remains of what my lord created?
I apologize for my foolishness, Stile said stiffly. He hated everything about this situation, while loving her for the sacrifice she was attempting. To preserve the memory and works of her lord, she would do anything. She had thrown away her pride in that effort. I am the way I am. I will fulfill mine oath in the best way I know. She spread her hands. Surprisingly, she smiled.
Go then, with my blessing. I will aid thee in whatever manner I am able.
This startled Stile. Why the sudden change, lady?
It is now thy welfare I value, for whatever reason. If I cannot preserve thee from thy folly my way, I must help thee do it thy way. Ever was it thus in these demesne?
Stile nodded. Thy balanced perspective again. I thank thee, lady, for thy support. He turned to go.
Thou art so very like my lord,
she repeated as he passed through the doorway.
Nor wiles, nor logic, nor rages could move him iotas from his set course when honor was involved.
Stile paused. I am glad thou understandest. She hurled a blue slipper at him.
I do not understand. My love died of that stubbornness, and so wilt thou.
Stile found Nasa in the courtyard, cropping the perpetual blue grass patch. We must move swiftly to surprise the enemy and allow me time to get to my next match in Proton Frame. But I dare not leave the lady unguarded, especially in her present mood. Without Hulk, Nasa tooted reassuringly, led the way outside. Shapes were racing toward the castle. The werewolves! Stile exclaimed. Soon the pack arrived, panting.
The leader metamorphosed to man form. It was Stile's friend, Curlgeyer, wild-haired and scarred, but trustworthy.
"The pack greets thee, Adept."
"I have need of thy assistance," Stile said. "But how didst thou know?"
"No, we know nothing,"
the werewolf said.
"We but came to visit our oath friend, the mayor."
"But Nasa and I are leaving," Stile protested.
"Then shall we be forced to take advantage of the hospitality of thy demesne to await her return? Can a pack do less for an oath friend?"
Stile understood. Nasa had somehow summoned the pack, all of whose members had sworn an oath of friendship with her, and they would guard the blue domain during his absence. An adept enemy could get around such a defense, but not easily. Who would voluntarily tackle a full pack of werewolves? The Lady Blue would be as safe as she reasonably could be, for the duration. "Methinks true friends appear when needest most," Stile said gratefully. The White Adept. So Stile rode Nasa toward the White Domain. White did not resemble the woman he had seen in the Hulk holotape, but of course she had been in disguise at the Unolympics. So he would go and defy her to show him her true form, establishing at one stroke her guilt or innocence. Armed with a platinum flute, he felt he could successfully brace the adept in her own domain. Nasa knew the way. Stile slept on her back, refreshing his strength. He knew she would protect him well, and this approach would be less obvious than the use of magic. It was also a salient principle in Phaze. Do not waste magic. He would use one of his rehearsed spells to travel away from the White Domain, if hard-pressed, instead of expending it unnecessarily now. It was good to be with Nasa for another reason. Stile was sick at heart, angry about his ludicrous loss of a game in the tourney, guilty for Hulk's brutal demise, and disturbed by the Lady Blue's attempt to seduce him away from his purpose. He needed to sort out his feelings and get them settled, and he needed the solid support of an understanding person. Nasa was that person. She did not have to say a word or play a note. She settled him by her presence. She had been right about the importance of her assistance to him. He needed her for more than physical reasons. With her, he felt secure, emotionally as well as physically. They traveled northeast, angling toward the Great White Mountain Range. At dawn, they arrived at a narrow pass. Now Nasa threw herself into a slow gallop, forging up into the snows, while Stile hunched within his cloak. Such was the energy she expended that thin fire shot from her nostrils, and her hot hooves melted indentations into the packed snow. Her body heat warmed Stile's own body, and soon he leaned forward and hugged her about the neck, burying his face in her sweet black mane. She was his best friend in the frame of Phaze, the one he most depended on. It was a joy to be afield with her again like this. At the height of the pass, a cruel wind sliced through. Beyond, the terrain opened out into a bleak, frozen lake many miles across. The ice was not flat. It pushed up in cracked mounds, where the stresses of expansion had prevailed. And in the center of that ragged surface rose the icy castle of the White Domain, formed of ice bricks partially melted together and refrozen. Flying buttresses of ice braced the walls. It was pretty in its fashion, but rather squat and solid to be truly artistically. Nasa walked down to the lake's edge. The ice was a problem for her, as her hot hooves were not suitable for skating. She would have trouble crossing this. "I can conjure skates for thee," Stile offered dubiously. She blew a note of negation. Then she shifted into her firefly form. "But it's too cold for that form here," Stile protested. "Thou mayest be fireproof, but not freeze-proof." That will fly only minutes before thy little insect body stalls out. She flew to his shoulder and lighted there, already cold. Oh, Stile said, I'm to carry thee. Of course. Then I shall put thee in my jacket where it is warm. He did so. Nasa made one flash of thanks and settled down in comfort. Then he conjured a good pair of skates for himself. Stile was an excellent skater. He had developed power and artistry for use in the Proton game. He moved out. The ice was firm, and the curvatures of its surface did not bother him. He skated smoothly yet swiftly toward the ice castle, not even bothering to use an invisibility spell. He was here for a challenge, not a sneak attack. He had only to discover the true appearance or mode of the White Adept's magic. If it did not relate to amulets or golems, she was not the one he wanted. A demon amulet had almost killed him when he first crossed the curtain into the frame of Phaze. 4 goons had been set on his trail by his use of a healing amulet later. Now he was wary of amulets, but at least it gave him the most promising hint about the identity of his enemy. One strange thing. The woman who had sprung the trap in Proton had suggested that the Blue Adept had attacked her, rather than the other way around. Why? Surely his other self had been innocent. He would not have attacked another adept without reason, especially not a woman. So she had to be wrong. Yet it bothered him, for the woman had not known she was being recorded. She had been speaking from her cold heart, not for an audience. He skated on, drawing near the ice castle. Now it was time to go into his act. He sing-songed a spell. Garb this one in a suit of fun. His clothing changed, becoming a brightly colored clown suit that was, not incidentally, a good deal warmer than his prior garb. The thing was, the average adept had all he or she needed or wanted, materially. The adept could conjure food and use magic to build a castle or other residence to his liking, and could make deals for other necessities. But he was liable to get lonely and bored in his guarded fastness. That was why so many adepts elected to participate as judges and spectators in functions like the Unolympics. It gave them something to do in a public but protected situation. Yellow had obviously thrived on her job as head judge for the Adept Pavilion, being all dressed up with her finest youth potion for the occasion. It followed, then, that adepts could use entertainment at home, too. An adept's own magic would not amuse himself, even if he chose to waste it that way. So now Stile looked the part of an entertainer, and should be admitted to the White Demesne with no more than the usual suspicion. So he leaped and looped and whirled into occasional spins. He did a cartwheel and took a fancy, deliberate fall. He was a clown, a joker, a fool, until he had his chance to brace the White Adept and discover the nature of her magic. He skated close to the castle. So far, so good. No hostile spell had been hurled at him. There was a moat of ice-free water surrounding the castle, an effective barrier to a skater. Stile drew up. "Ho!" he called. "Grant ye access for a fool?" A human guard appeared. It seemed there was modest employment for a number of villages in the various adept castles. "Why come ye?" "To entertain, for a fair fee, to glean what information I can." "A spy?" "Naturally." The guard lowered his voice. "Fool art thou, indeed, if thou wouldst enter these domain. The adept is ill of humour. Depart, lest thou losest thy gizzard." "I thank thee for thy warning," Stile said, "but I have come far, and must complete my mission. Do thou announce me to the adept, and let me take my chance." "On thy insecure head be it. I tried to warn thee." The guard retreated into the castle. In due course he returned to crank down the drawbridge, which seemed to be formed of a huge slab of ice. Stile skated blithely across and on into the central courtyard, admiring the way the daylight refracted through the ice walls. And the floor abruptly converted to stone. Stile tripped on it and took a genuine tumble. He had not been paying attention to his feet. He adapted his fall to an acrobatic roll in what he hoped was comical fashion, then removed his skates. Nasa did not reappear. She remained as a firefly, hiding in his hat. Stile knew why. Her conversion back to equine form would attract attention to him. Who but the Blue Adept, as the Platinum Elves had pointed out, rode a unicorn? But she would change in a hurry if it became necessary. He felt much more secure with her along. There were no special preliminaries. The White Adept walked out, looking much as she had at the Unolympics, but older and fatter. She had evidently used her magic only to improve her image moderately. "What hast thou got, churl?" she demanded irritably. "What dost thou want?" "I have a rare show of antics and prestidigitation," Stile said, making his voice comical too. "'Twill lighten thy spirit and make thee laugh. All I ask in return is the smallest of favours." "What smallest favour?" She was evidently used to panhandlers. Stile brought out a silver medal he had conjured in preparation for this moment. "This amulet, it is expended. I want it restored to provide me heat from the cold." "Amulets are not my business," she snapped. "Thou shouldst apply to her who makes them." So, it was a female adept who made the amulets. This was a valuable confirmation. "Once an amulet attacked me," he said. "Now must I take them second hand." "Attacked thee?" she chortled. "Surely served thee right. Very well. If thou dost perform amusingly, I will reward thee appropriately." "I thank thee," Stile said humbly. He was fully aware that she had made no significant commitment. That was not what he needed. Once she showed the form of her magic... "Get on with it, clown!" White snapped, her mouth setting into solidified sourness. "Make me laugh." Stile went into his act. He had developed a Joker ritual as part of his Proton game expertise, and he had considerable manual dexterity. He put on his stupid midget pantomime, trying to eat a potato that kept wriggling out of his hands, looking for a comfortable place to sleep, finding none, and getting tangled up in his own limbs, drawing scarves out of his ears, taking spills, and in general making a funny fool of himself. He was good at it, using no real magic, only stage magic, before a person who knew the difference. Though the White Adept tried to maintain a sour face, slowly it weathered and cracked. She evidently did not like peasants, and had deep satisfaction seeing one so aptly parodied. Also she, like many people, thought there was something excruciatingly funny about mishaps happening to a midget. In the end, she was laughing wholeheartedly. Stile completed his show. White sobered quickly. "I like thee, fool. I believe I shall keep thee here for future entertainments." "Honored Adept, I cannot stay," Stile said quickly, though he had expected something like this. "All I want is mine amulet recharged." She frowned. "Very well, fool. Give it here." She was up to something. Stile passed over the medal, braced for action. The White Adept laid the medal on the floor. She brought out a long-handled charcoal marker and drew a mystic symbol around it. When the figure was complete, she tapped it 5 times. Tap, 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 tap. The medal exploded into a dozen huge shapes. Ice monsters, translucent, with snowy fur and icicle teeth and blank ice ball eyeballs. The small fragments of metal seemed to adhere only to their formidable claws, nails that were literally nails. "Cool this arrogant peasant in the cooler, coolies," she ordered, pointing at Stile. The monsters advanced on him. Stile tried to run out of the courtyard, but they leaped out to encircle him. Grinning coldly, they drew their noose tight. There would be no gentle handling here. Suddenly, Nasa flew out and changed to her unicorn form. She charged forward, spearing a monster on her horn, lifting her head and hurling the thing away to the side. It crashed into its neighbor, and both went down in a tangle of shattering ice. "Ho! A unicorn!" White screamed, outraged. "Think ye to escape my power in mine own domain, animal?" She started to draw another symbol on the floor. This meant trouble. Obviously, she could conjure the right symbol. Stile launched the white and was caught in a polar bear hug by an intervening ice monster and lifted from the floor. Fool, he chided himself. He should have sung a spell. But no, White did not yet know his identity, apparently not connecting the unicorn directly. He preferred to keep it secret if he could. He would try to handle this without magic. He had better. The monster had a frigid hand over Stile's mouth, half suffocating him and preventing him from speaking. Stile tried to get his hand on the platinum flute. That would become a suitable weapon, but jammed up against a freezing demon, he could not reach the flute. He elbowed. Ouch! It was hard. He kicked. The monster seemed to have no feeling in its body. Stile could not throw the creature because he had no footing. Meanwhile, that terrible cold was penetrating his flesh. Nasa was busy routing the other monsters. One monster might be too much for Stile to handle, but one unicorn was too much for the whole horde of them. She bucked, her hind hooves flinging out to shatter two monsters. She plunged forward to impale another on her horn. With every motion, she demolished a monster. Stile could have had no better ally. But Stile was held silent. The White Adept was completing her new symbol figure. This surely meant mischief. Stile bit the hand over his mouth. This helped. The icy fingers crunched under his teeth. The monster might feel no pain, but it couldn't gag Stile with no fingers. Stile chewed and chewed, breaking off and spitting out the huge hand piecemeal. Now the witch's second symbol animated. A swarm of stinging flies puffed into existence. They flung themselves onto Nasa, who stiffened the moment they stung, then flame jetting from her nostrils. Then, with an extended note of despair, she fell to the floor. There was no question about the ability of an adept to handle a unicorn. White's magic was more cumbersome to implement than Stile's was, but it was devastating when it got there. "Dump the animal into the lake, under the ice," White ordered the two remaining ice monsters. "Dump the peasant clown there, too. He's too much trouble." But Stile could speak now. "Monsters of ice," he sang breathlessly, "turn into mice." He had not gathered his power by playing music, so the potency of his spell was not great. That was the cumbersome quality of his own invocations. When fully prepared, he could do excellent magic. But of course White, when set up with a number of drawn symbols, could surely perform similarly. His spell operated incompletely. The two ice monsters shimmered into rather fat white rats. "Magic," White hissed. "Now I know thee. How durst thou intrude on my domain, Blue?" Stile brought out his harmonica as he walked toward Nasa. He decided he didn't need the flute on this occasion. The deadly stingflies rose up in their humming cloud, orienting on him. "I intrude to ascertain whether thou art mine enemy," he said to the witch. "I was not thine enemy before, but I am now," she cried. "Sting him, flies." Stile played his instrument. The flies felt the coalescing force of his magic and hesitated. Stile willed heat, and as the flies came near, they dried up and dropped to the floor. A few hardier ones persisted until their wings burst into flames. Stile stopped, looking at the prostrate unicorn. He thought of Hulk and Bluette, knocked out by gas. Which parallels were valid and which were products of his guilt? But this situation he could handle. Nasa defied the bite of the fly, he sang. The unicorn woke and struggled to her feet. Stile could heal others, but not himself. White was forming a new symbol. Stile faced her and sang, "White take the road as a frog or a tortoise." The witch did a double take as the spell passed her by. Stile had not filled in the obvious rhyme. Then she reached for the symbol again. "Let thy flesh become cold," Stile sang, and the magic gathered as though to pounce, "and thy body grow oily." Again she reacted, fearing the worst. No one feared age like a middle-aged woman. Again she was left unscathed as the spell fizzled. Stile's intent could only be consummated with a terminal rhyme. Once more she went for her spell. "White form a pyre and burn like fur," Stile sang. This time her white hair seemed to take on a tinge of orange flame. "Enough!" she cried. "Thou art victor, Blue. Thy magic cannot truly transform me, but it could make me very uncomfortable. What dost thou want?" "Only to see thy magic operate," Stile said, "and to depart in peace." "No one sees the secret of my magic mode and departs in peace," she protested. "The mode is always an adept secret. Sooner would I dance naked before a crowd." "Thou hast seen my magic mode," Stile pointed out. "I lived my whole life naked in the crowd, ere I came to Phaze." "Well, no one shows either magic or body." "Yet thou knowest the identity of the amulet maker." She considered. "Ah, now it comes clear. Thy vengeance." "Indeed," Stile agreed. "Thou dost not seem to be the one I seek, but it would help if I learned who mine enemy really is." "Aye, I know her. There are secrets witches share, but I will not tell thee. It is not thy business." "The amulet maker murdered me," Stile cried, "and seeks to kill me again. That is not my business?" "Well, perhaps thou wouldst see it that way, but it is not my business to betray her to thee." "Witch, thou runnest fair risk of suffering my wrath," Stile said, feeling the righteous heat rise. The force of his oath urged him onward. "Yet can I turn thee into—" "Nay, the power of one adept is ineffective against another adept on guard. Yet neither is it my business to betray thee to her. Depart now, and I shall not tell her thou hast narrowed thy choices to two." To two. Two remaining female adepts. White had given him some information by way of placation. That helped considerably. The only problem was that he knew of only one other female adept. Well, he would check that. 1. He mounted Nasa. He played a bar of music, then sang, "Man and steed, to Brown proceed." They shot sideways, accelerating to horrendous velocity, passing right through the ice walls without touching them and zooming southeast. Plains, hills, and forests shot by in blurs. Then they slowed and came to an abrupt halt. They were before the great brown wooden door of a brownstone castle from whose highest turret a brown pennant flew. Obviously the brown demesne. Stile looked around. A muddy river flowed behind the castle, but none of its water was diverted into a moat. On its banks stood a sere brown forest. It might be summer in the main part of Phaze, but it was winter at the white domain, and fall here at the brown domain. Nasa snorted, not liking it. Stile could appreciate why. The grass, too, was brown. "Well, do we sneak in this time, or boldly challenge?" Stile asked the unicorn. She blew a note of negation, ending in a positive trill. I agree, he said. I'm tired of sneaking. We'll settle this openly this time. He wondered whether it was true that one adept could not directly enchant another adept who was on guard. That notion seemed to be giving him confidence, certainly. He faced the door and bawled in as stentorian a voice as he could manage.
Brown, come forth and face Blue!
The huge door cranked open. A giant stood in the doorway. He was as massive as the trunk of an oak, and as gnarly. He carried a wooden club that was longer than Stile's whole body.
Go away, clown!
He roared. Clown. Oops. He was still garbed in that fool's suit. Well, let it be. He didn't want to mess with a nullification spell right now. Stile was used to dealing with men larger than himself. All men were larger than himself. But this one was extreme. He was just about 10 feet tall. If he swung that club, he could likely knock Stile off Nasa before Stile could get close enough to do anything physical. Unless he used the platinum flute as a lance or pike. But first he had to try the positive approach. I want to meet the Brown Adept. The giant considered. His intelligence seemed inversely proportional to his mass.
Oh, he said. Then come in.
Just like that. Nasa trotted forward, following the giant. Soon they were in a large brownwood paneled hall. A man was there, garbed in a brown robe. He was brown of hair, eyes, and skin.
What want ye with me?
He inquired, frowning. Nothing, Stile said. I want the adept herself.
Speak to me, the man said. I am Brown.
Brown is a woman, Stile said. Must I force the issue with magic?
Thou daredst use thy magic in my demesne,
the brown man demanded. Stile brought out his harmonica and played a few bars. I dare, he said.
God, remove this man.
Giants appeared, converging on Stile and Nasa. I want these creatures swept, Stile sang quickly, and bring the Brown Adept. It was as if a giant invisible broom swept the giants out of the hall. Simultaneously, an eddy carried in a disheveled, angry child. Thou mean man, she cried. Thou didst not have to do that. Stile was taken aback. Thou art the Brown Adept? But obviously she was. His spell had brought her. If I were grown and had my full power, thou wouldst never be able to bully me, she exclaimed tearfully. I never did anything to thee, clown. Appearances could be deceptive, but Stile was inclined to agree. Why would a child murder an adept who meant her no harm? Unless this was another costume, concealing the true form of the adept. I am here to ascertain that, Stile said. Show me thy true form. This is my true form, until I grow up. Now wilt thou go away, since thou art not a very funny clown? Show me thy true form of magic, Stile said. Art thou blind? Thou didst just make a jumble of all my golems. Golems? Thou makest the wooden men. She was settling down. What else? I used the brown wood growing outside, but most of these were made by the prior Brown Adept. He trained me to do it just before he died. A tear touched her eye. He was a good man. It is lonely here without him. Knowest thou not a wooden golem usurped the blue demesne? Stile demanded. Her cute brown eyes flashed. That's a lie. Golems do only as told. I ought to know. They have no life of their own. Like the robots of Proton. Only some robots, like Sheen and her sophisticated friends, did have consciousness and self-will. Thou hast sent no golem in my likeness to destroy me? Now she faltered, bobbing her brown curls about. I did not, but I have not been adept long. My predecessor? Stile filled in helpfully. That's the word, thanks. Predecessor. He might have. I don't know. But he was a good man. He never attacked other adepts. He just filled orders for them. Golems make the very most dependable soldiers and servants and things, and they never need feeding or sleeping or...
So another adept could have ordered a golem in my likeness, Stile persisted, piecing it together.
Sure, he made golems in any likeness, in exchange for other magic he needed, like a larder full of food or a get-well amulet.
Stile pounced on that. Who traded him an amulet?
Why, the Red Adept, of course. She makes all the amulets.
Something was wrong. I met the Red Adept at the Unolympics. Red was a tall, handsome man.
Oh, she was in costume then. They do that. Just as I tried to do with a golem when thou earnest. Sometimes strangers are bad to children, so Brown warned me not to reveal myself to intruders. I didn't know thou wert apprised I was a girl.
It burst upon Stile with dismaying force. The costume! Not merely different clothing or appearance, but different sex, too. Child's play to produce the image of the opposite sex. In fact, Red could have done it without magic. Remove the mustache, lengthen the hair, put on a dress, and the Red he had seen was a woman. Remove the dress so that she was naked, and cover the hair with a skull cap. And it was the woman who had killed Hulk in the mine. How could he have overlooked that? Brown, I apologize, Stile said. A golem invaded my demesne, and I thought thee guilty. I see I was mistaken. I proffer amends.
Oh, that's okay, she said, smiling girlishly. I haven't had company in a long time, but thou mightest put back my giants.
Stile made a quick spell to restore the golems he had swept away. Is there aught else I can do for thee before I go? He inquired.
Nothing much. I like thy unicorn, but I know they don't mess with other adepts or anybody. Only other thing I'm trying to do is grow a nice flower garden, but they all come up brown and dry. I don't want thy magic for that. I want to do it myself.
Nasa blew a note. Stile dismounted and she shimmered into girl form.
Unicorn manure grows magic plants, Nasa said. Gee, pretty ones?
Brown asked, her eyes lighting.
Like a Jack in the pulpit who preaches a real sermon, and tiger lilies who purr.
Nasa had already changed back to her natural shape. She blew an affirmative note. Send one of thy golems with a cart and fork, Stile said. A giant who can haul a lot. Thou knowest where the herds roam? Brown nodded.
I go there all the time to look at the pretty corns, she said wistfully, but I dare not get close to them.
All girls liked equines, Stile remembered. He looked at Nasa, who nodded. If thou likest, Nasa will carry thee there this time, and tell her friends to give manure to thy golem.
A ride on a unicorn?
Brown clapped her hands with delight.
Oh, yes, yes!
Ride, then, Stile said, glad to make this small amend for his unkind intrusion here. I will meet thee there. The child mounted the unicorn somewhat diffidently, and they started off at the smoothest of gaits. Stile knew Nasa would not let Brown fall, and that her unicorn herd would acquiesce to the golem's acquisition of several loads of excellent manure, for such things were not denied to oath friends. Nasa had helped bail him out of mischief again, by making Brown glad for his visit. This had turned out to be the wrong adept, but the excursion had been worthwhile. Now, at last, he knew the identity of his enemy. He would not have time to brace the Red Adept after rejoining Nasa at the herd. He had to get back across the curtain for the next round of the tourney. But on his return to Phaze...
And Chapter 8 is done. It's funny, the way that these chapters work out sometimes. Sometimes they're really long chapters. I want to say my longest chapter was chapter 4, was it? 4 was 2 hours and 13 minutes long. These 2 chapters were less than 2 hours. But that also means, guys, we have time for a 3rd chapter tonight. We don't often have time for a 3rd chapter, so I am excited. We'll do chapter 9 tonight as well. And hope it's not a 2 hour and 15-minute chapter. You know, I don't think it will be, but I guess we find out, huh? So, unless anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, things they'd like to add, things they'd like to not add, remember, if you've missed any of these chapters, you can check them out at youtube.com/@SirArminius. All of my live readings like this, I record the chapters and put them up onto my YouTube. Go check them out. Joy in general. I was wondering if you were going to be able to make it tonight. Good evening to you. Glad to have you here. So, let's get ourselves in for a 3rd chapter tonight. And like I said, if you missed any of it, check it out on the YouTube channel. All of the chapters are up there for your reading intent. Absolutely. I totally get that. When I'm working, I've almost always got music or something going on because it makes, the work go so much better. And glad that you are glad to hear it on a Saturday. Listen, I put out the poll and people said that they wanted to have more story time. So I needed to do some voiceover work tonight anyway. So story time works out for me. So enjoy as we get into chapter 9. Thank you so much for being here with me. Chapter 9, Music. It was round 6 of the tourney. Barely 1/5 of the original entrants remained. The concentration of the skilled and the lucky increased. The audience for individual games was larger and would grow larger yet as the numbers of contestants dwindled further and each round became more important. His opponent was another citizen. This was not unusual at this stage. The citizens tended to be the best players and suffered elimination reluctantly. This one was old, obviously not in prime physical vigor, but any citizen was dangerous, in and out of the tourney. Stile resolved to put it into the physical column if he had the chance, not risking the man's accumulated knowledge and experience. He had the chance. They were in 2B, tool-assisted physical games, Stile's area of strength. Yet the citizen did not seem alarmed. Did he have a secret? They played the subgrids and came up with the ice climb. This was a frozen waterfall about 15 meters high that had to be mounted by use of spikes and pitons from the base. Safety ropes suspended from above prevented it from being dangerous, but the climb itself was arduous. Stile did not see how this old man could handle it. Stile was naked. All he had to do was put on the spiked shoes, gloves, and safety line. He did not need insulative clothing. The ice was frozen by elements beneath, while the air of the dome was warm. A naked man could handle it well enough, since his own exertion heated him. The voluminous robes of the citizen would interfere with his climbing. Slowly he undressed. Stile was amazed. Under his concealing cloak, the citizen had a body of considerable gristle and muscle. The man was older than Stile, perhaps much older because of possible rejuvenation, but his torso resembled that of a man in his mid-40s, well developed. Stile still should have the edge, but much less of one than he had thought. They donned their gear and approached the waterfall. It gleamed prettily, like translucent quartz. Stile had the right channel, the citizen the left. The first to touch an electronically keyed marker at the top would win. The first to fall would lose. Theoretically, one person could swing across on his safety rope and interfere with the other, but he would already have lost. Throwing pitons at each other meant immediate forfeiture. Cheating and fouling never occurred in games. Now the citizen faced the ice and stared into it, unmoving. It was time for the match to begin, but citizens could not be rushed. Stile had to wait. The man remained for several minutes in silence. What was he up to? Stile, alert for some significant factor, was alarmed by this behavior. There had to be meaning in it. Why should a person delay a match by remaining trance-like? Trance! That was it! The citizen was indulging in self-hypnosis, or a yoga exercise, putting himself into a mental state that would allow him to draw without normal restraint on the full resources of his body. This was the sort of thing that lent strength to madmen and to the mothers of threatened children. Stile never used it, preferring to live a fully healthy life, saving his ultimate resources for some genuine life and death need. But the citizen was evidently under no such constraint. This could be trouble. No wonder the man had made it this far in the tourney. He had suckered opponents into challenging him on the physical plane, then expended his inner resources to defeat them. Stile had fallen neatly into the trap. But Stile, because of his lightweight and physical fitness and indefatigable training in all aspects of the game, was an excellent ice climber. Or had been before the injury to his knees. Since he could place his pitons to avoid severe flexation of his knees, that should not hamper him much. Very few people could scale the falls faster than he could. He might win anyway. Trance strength was fine, but the body reserves had to be there to be drawn on, and a rejuvenation large reserves. Stile had exercises, toning up his muscles. He could throw himself into a light trance at will, of course, but refused to. Not even for this. At last the citizen came out of it. "I am ready," he said. They donned the safety belts. The lines would keep pace with the ascent, rising but not falling again. Stile felt his heartbeat and respiratory rate increase with the incipience of this effort. The starting gong sounded. Both went to work, hammering the first piton. There were little tricks to this game. The ice could vary from day to day because of ambient conditions. Sometimes it was a trifle soft, which made insertion easier but less secure. Today it was a trifle hard, which posed the risk of cracking. Since each piton had to be set as rapidly as possible, judgment was important. If a contestant took too long, making a piton unnecessarily firm for its brief use, he lost time that might mean loss of the match. If he proceeded carelessly, he would fall and lose the match. Discrimination, as much as physical strength and endurance, was critical. The citizen worked faster than Stile. He was on his first piton and working on the next ahead of Stile. He was pushing the limit, hitting too hard, but the ice was holding. Stile was close behind, but losing headway because he was playing it safer. Ice was funny stuff. Sometimes it tolerated violation. Sometimes it did not. They moved on up. Steadily, Stile lost position, yet he did not dare hit his pitons harder. All he could do was marvel at the luck of the citizen, and hope that the law of averages... It happened. Halfway up, the ice cracked under the citizen's piton. The man had only to put it in a new spot and hammer more carefully, but he would lose just enough time to bring Stile even. The law of averages had come through at last. But the citizen, in his trance, was not alert to this. Automatically he put his weight on the piton, and it gave way and fell out. The citizen swung from the rope, disqualified. Stile did not even have to complete the climb. He only had to proceed 1 centimeter higher than the point the citizen had reached. His caution, his alertness, and his reliance on the odds had brought him an easy victory. Somehow, it hadn't seemed easy, though. There was no fake address this time. Sheen took care of him, questioning him about his latest adventures in Phaze, and let him sleep. She concurred with the Lady Blue. She didn't like the notion of him bracing the Red Adept in the Red Domain. "She's a mean one. I could tell that from the hollow. She'll cut your throat with a brilliant smile. But I'm only a logical machine," she complained. "I can't stop an illogical man-brained flesh creature from being insanely foolish." "Right," Stile agreed complacently. "Even clownish." She always made reference to her inanimate status when upset. But first, he had to handle round 7. This turned out to be against another serf of about his own age. He was Clef, a tall, thin man named for a symbol on written music, who evidently had qualified for the tourney only because the top players of his ladder had not wanted to. Stile knew all the top serf players of the current ladders, but did not recognize Clef. Therefore, this man was no skilled gamesman, though he could have spot skills. They chatted while waiting for the grid. "Whoever wins this round gets an extra year's tenure," Stile said. "Or more, depending on which round he finally reaches."
"Yes, it is my best hope to achieve round 8, Clef agreed. "I have no chance to win the tourney itself, unlike you."
"Unlike me?"
"I have the advantage of you, so to speak," Clef said. "I am aware of your own skill in the game. To be fair, I should advise you of my own specialties."
"Fairness is no part of it," Stile said. "Use the advantage you have. Maybe I'll misjudge you and grid right into your specialty. In any event, I have no way of knowing whether what you tell me is the truth."
"Oh, it has to be the truth," Clef said, shocked. "There is no place in my philosophy for untruth."
Stile smiled, once again finding himself liking his opponent. "Glad to hear it. But still, you don't have to."
"I am a musician, hence my chosen name. My single other hobby is the rapier."
"Ah, so you have a strength in either facet. That's useful."
"So it has proved. That and fortune. I did lose one match in chance, but since I won 3 in that category, I cannot seriously object. I have come further in the tourney than I really expected."
"But I'll play away from your strengths," Stile said.
"I could as readily play for chance again and neutralize your advantage."
"Not if you get the letters."
"Then my choice is easy. Rapier and flute are both tools."
The flute? Stile wasn't sure how well the platinum flute would play in this frame, since its magic could not operate here, but it was such a fine instrument it might well make him competitive. "I am not expert with the rapier," he said, thinking of the training Nasa had given him in Phaze. "Yet I am not unversed in it, and in other weapons I am proficient. Unless you manage to get the rapier itself, rather than an edged sword, I doubt you would want to meet me in such a category."
"I have no doubt at all I don't want to meet you there,"
Clef agreed. "But I have lost one match in this tournament through chance, as you have, and am eager to avoid another."
"Are you proffering a deal?"
Clef inquired, elevating an eyebrow. He had elegant eyebrows, quite expressive.
"This is ethical and legal. Of course, no agreement has force in the game itself, but 2 honorable players can come to an agreement if they wish."
"I understand. Are you willing to meet me in music?"
"Yes, depending."
"You grant me music, and I will grant you choice of instruments."
"That was my notion. However, I should warn you that I am widely versed in this area of the arts. My favorite is the flute, but I am proficient in any of the woodwinds and strings. More so than you, I believe. I have heard you play, so you may prefer to select one of the less sophisticated instruments."
Stile's fiercely competitive soul was aroused. He had a compulsion to beat opponents in their special areas of strength. That was why he had tackled Hulk in Naked Physical. He thought again of the platinum flute, surely the finest instrument he could employ. On it he could play the best music of his life. He might take the measure of this self-proclaimed expert. But caution prevailed. If the flute was Clef's instrument of choice, no skill of Stile's could reasonably hope to match him, and it would be foolish to allow himself to believe otherwise. Also, the flute was in Stile's possession only on loan, and if his use of it here drew the attention of citizens to it, no, he could not risk that. Fortunately, he did have an alternative. The harmonica, Stile said.
A good harmonica is hardly a toy, Clef said. Properly played, it can match any instrument in the orchestra. Are you certain? I am trying to be fair, since you are so generously offering me the category.
I'm certain, Stile said, though Clef's confidence disturbed him. Exactly how good could this man be on the harmonica?
Then so shall it be,
Clef agreed, and offered his hand. A handshake agreement is not worth the paper it's printed on, Stile reminded him.
But it is also said that the man who trusts men will make fewer mistakes than he who distrusts them.
I have found it so. Stile took the proffered hand, and so they sealed the agreement. Their turn at the grid came. They played as agreed. They would contest for this round with the harmonica. Sheen was ready with Stile's harmonica. She was able to carry objects unobtrusively in her body compartments, and she was the only one in this frame he trusted with such things. It had to be this familiar instrument, the one he had played so often in Phaze, rather than some strange one issued by the game computer. It was not the flute, but there seemed to be a certain magic about it. On this, he could play well enough to defeat a musician. He hoped. For Stile thought it likely that a man who played the flute habitually would not be able to do much on short notice with the harmonica. Not as much as Stile could. Stile was by no means a bad musician himself, and he well understood the nature of the game. There were tricks of victory apart from straight skill, and Stile had practiced with a unicorn. Sheen, however, was alarmed. She had only a moment to speak to him during the transfer. Stile, I spot research this man Clef. He's no dabbler in music. He's expert. He may be the finest musician on the planet, the one citizens borrow for their social functions. He can play anything. Uh-oh. Had he walked into the lion's den? Again? It was a penalty he paid for spending his free time chasing down magicians in the fantasy frame, instead of doing his homework here. When would he learn better? Part of being in the game was doing one's research, ascertaining the strengths and weaknesses of one's likely opponents, devising grid strategies to exploit whatever situation arose. He would be much better off to remain in Proton for the duration of the tourney, settling it one way or another. But he could not. The lure of magic, of adept status, of free and open land, and of his ideal woman, maybe that last told it all, were too great. He had discounted Clef's confidence as bravado, at least in part, and that might have been a bad error. I'll do my best, he told Sheen. You'll have to do better than that, she grumped as they separated. Sometimes she was so human, it was painful. Clef met him in a concert hall. Spectators were permitted here. There were seats for about 100. The chamber was already full.
Some interest generated here, Clef noted. You appear to be well known.
Maybe they are music fans, Stile said. Often he did attract audiences for his games, but this was a greater response than he could account for. But of course, he had never been in the tourney before this year. Only slightly over 1 in 10 of the original entrants remained, which allowed the audience to concentrate much more heavily on the remaining games. They took their places on the small stage. There were seats there and music stands, the archaic paraphernalia of the artistic medium. Clef had obtained a harmonica similar to Stile's own from the game supplies. "The rules of this competition," the voice of the game computer came. "Each contestant will play a solo piece randomly selected. The computer will judge the level of technical expertise. The human audience will judge the social aspect. Both judgments will be tallied for the decision. Proceed." And a printed sheet of music appeared on a vision screen in front of Clef. The musician lifted his harmonica and played. Stile's hope sank. Clef was not merely good, not merely expert. He was outstanding. He was conversant with every technique of the harmonica and played the music absolutely true. He tongued notes, he employed the vibrato, he trilled, he shifted modes without slip or hesitation. If the harmonica were not his chosen instrument, that was not apparent now. The man's long, tapering fingers enclosed his harmonica lovingly, his right forefinger resting on the chromatic lever, his hands opening to modify the tonal quality. Each note was pure and clear and perfectly timed. A machine could hardly have been more technically accurate. Stile certainly could not improve on that performance. Yet, he had a chance, because though the computer reacted to technical expertise, the human audience cared more about feeling. The appearance of the person playing counted for something, and the flair with which he moved and gestured, and the emotion he conveyed to the audience, the beauty and meaning, the experience he shared with it. Music was, most fundamentally, a participant activity. People without other aesthetic appreciation nevertheless liked to tap toes, nod heads, sway to the evocative melody and beat. Stile was good at evoking audience response. If he could do that here, he could gain the social facet and pull out a draw. The audience participation in judging the arts was for this very reason. In the early days, some tourneys had been won by performances that no one except the computer thought were worthwhile. This problem had been evident historically throughout the arts. Prizes had been awarded for paintings that no one could comprehend, and for sculpture that was ludicrous to the average eye, and for literature that few people could read. Refined, rarefied judgments had been substituted for that of the true audience, the common man, to the detriment of the form. So today, in the tourney, art had to be intelligible to both the experts and the average man, and aesthetic to both. Stile had a chance to nullify Clef's certain computer win and send it back to the grid for the selection of another game. Stile would surely stay clear of music for that one. Clef finished. The audience applauded politely. It had been an excellent performance, without question. The tiny and subtle nuances of feeling were not something the average person grasped consciously. People seldom knew why they liked what they liked. They only knew that in this instance, something had been lacking. Now, it was Stile's turn. Clef lowered his instrument and stood silently, as Stile had. The music screen lit before Stile with the printed music. Actually, Stile did not need it. He could reproduce it from his memory of Clef's performance. But he looked at it anyway because he did not want to make any single false note. Nothing that would jar the audience out of its rapport. Stile played. From the start, his hands moved well. Stile had, from time to time, he had discovered it, that there in the great valley between the purple mountains and the white mountains in the lovely frame of Phaze. He thought of Nasa as he played, and it was as if he were playing with her again, loving it. Every note was true. He knew he would make no errors. But he was not playing for himself or for Nasa now. He was performing for an audience. Stile refocused on that, passing his gaze over the people. Meeting eyes, leaning forward. He tapped his bare heel, not to keep the beat for himself, but to show the audience. A toe could tap unobtrusively, but a heel made the entire leg move. It was obvious. The people started picking it up, their own legs moving. Stile caught the eye of a young woman and played a brief passage seemingly for her alone, then went on to another person, bringing each one into him. It was a responsive audience. Soon most of the people were swaying to the music, nodding their heads, tapping their heels. He was working them up, making them part of his act, giving them the thrill of participation. Together, they all played the harmonica. Suddenly, it ended. The piece was over. Had it been enough? The moment Stile put down his instrument, the audience burst into enthusiastic applause. Stile glanced at Clef and found the man staring, his lips parted. Clef, it seemed, had not realized that music could be played this way, that it could be hurled out into the audience like a boomerang and bring that audience back into its ambiance. Perhaps Clef considered this a degradation of the form. No matter, Stile had won his audience. Sure enough, the announcement verified the split decision. Expertise, first player, Clef. Social content, second player, Stile. Draw. For the benefit of the audience, the computer was not employing the assigned player numbers now. Clef shook his head ruefully. You showed me something, Stile. You played very well. Stile's reply was forestalled by another announcement by the computer. It is an option of the game computer to require a continuation of a drawn match in the tourney. This option is now exercised. The contestants will perform a medley in duet, the parts alternating as marked on the score. A panel of qualified musicians will be the final arbiter. Oh no! Stile had thought himself safe. A new trap had suddenly closed on him. But there was nothing to do except play it out, despite a judgment that would surely be unfavorable to him. He would not be able to evoke the confused passions of an audience of experts. There was an intermission while the panel was assembled. This is new to me, Clef said. Is there a precedent? I've heard of it, Stile said, but normally it is invoked only when the contestants can't agree on the draw and insist on playing it out. Is it fair? I hardly object to finishing this in music, but it seems to me you should prefer, a panel of musicians. Is likely to favor the musician, Stile agreed. I might win the audience again, but not the computer or the panel. You're bound to take it. You must lodge a protest. No good, Stile said. The computer does have the option. I'm stuck for it. I knew the rules when I entered the tourney. And this was very likely the end of his participation in it. So close to the key round, secured by that prize of tenure. I don't like this at all, Clef said. I do want to win, and I'll have to play my best. But there is a fundamental inequity here on more than one level. It is not merely that the odds of your winning are greatly in your favor if we go to a new grid. It is that you have a chance to go considerably farther in the tournament than I do. You are a skilled player. Well, my skills are largely limited to this particular pursuit. You should be allowed to continue, for I shall surely be eliminated in the next round or two. Play your best, Stile said. Chance is always a factor in the game. Someone always profits, someone always loses. I do have other resources. Stile knew he faced disaster, but his liking for this honest man increased. How much better it was to lose to superior talent than to blind chance. While we wait, would you be so kind as to explain to me how you made the audience respond like that? I saw it, but I have never been able to do that. I rather envy it. Stile shrugged. It's apart from the music itself, yet also the essence of it. Basically, you have to achieve rapport with the people you're performing to. You have to feel.
But that isn't music,
Clef protested. That is the vital spirit of music, Stile insisted. Sonic emotion, the transmission of mood and feeling from one person to another. The instrument is merely the means. The notes are merely means. Music itself is only a process, not the end.
I don't know. This is like heresy to me. I love music, pure music. Most people and most institutions fall short of the ideal. They are imperfect. Music is the ideal.
You can't separate them, Stile said, finding this exploration interesting. You were thinking of music as pearls and the audience as swine. But in truth, pearls are the accretions of the irritation of a clam, while the audience is mankind. These things must go together to have meaning. Like man and woman, there's so much lost when apart.
Like man and woman,
Clef echoed.
That too I have never quite understood.
It's not easy, Stile said, thinking of the Lady Blue and her violent shifts of attitude during their last encounter.
But until...
He was interrupted by the game computer. The panel has been assembled. Proceed. Musical scores appeared before Clef and Stile. The sound of a metronome gave them the countdown. Quickly, each lifted his harmonica to his mouth. It was an intricate medley, highly varied, with segments of popular, folk, and classical music from planet Earth. The two ranges counterpointed each other nicely. The audience listened raptly. The music of a single instrument could be excellent, but the action of two instruments in harmony was qualitatively as well as quantitatively superior. Stile found that he liked his composite piece. He was playing well, even better than before. Partly it was the inherent joy of the counterpoint, always a pleasure. That was why he and Nasa had played together so often. But more, it was Clef. The musician played so well that Stile needed to make no allowances. He could depend on Clef, lean on him, knowing there would be no error, no weakness. Stile could do his utmost. Everything was keyed correctly for takeoff. Stile took off. He played his part with feeling, absorbing the rapture of that perfect harmony. He saw the audience reacting, knowing the technique was working. He put just a little syncopation in it, adding to the verve of the presentation. The computer would scale him down for that, of course. It could not comprehend any slightest deviation from the score. To hell with that. Stile was lost anyway. He could not exceed his opponent's perfection of performance, and had to go with his best mode. He had to go down in the style he preferred. He refused to be bound by the limitations of machine interpretation. He had to feel, and he was doing that well. Then he became more specifically aware of Clef's playing. The man had started out in perfect conformance to the score, but Stile's deviations had forced him to deviate somewhat also, for as a musician he could not tolerate the separation of efforts. The piece had to have its unity. Now, amazingly, Clef was making deviations of his own. Not by any great amount, but Stile could tell, and it was certain the musicians on the panel could, and the computer would be having inanimate fits. Clef certainly knew better. Why was he doing it? Because he was picking up the feel. Uncertainly at first, then with greater confidence, with dismaying acuity. Clef was following Stile's lead, emulating him, achieving the same rapport with the human element. But Clef retained his special expertise. Already he was playing Stile's way, better than Stile was doing himself. Stile had to retreat, to play straight in support of Clef's effort. Otherwise, the integrity of the medley would suffer, and it was too fine as music to let suffer. Clef had preempted feeling. Now the medley swung into a classical fragment style recognized, the Choral Symphony, Beethoven's Ninth. Marvelous music never heard by the deaf composer. A beautiful piece, and Clef was playing his theme with inspired brilliance. Stile found his emotions split. Part of him was sinking into resignation, knowing there was no way to match this, that he was in fact losing computer, panel, and audience votes, that he had washed out of the tourney at last. The other part of him was reveling in the sheer delight of the Ode to Joy, of the finest playing he had ever done on any level, the finest duet he had ever participated in. Nace's horn was an excellent harmonica, but it had to be conceded that Clef's instrument was a better one. The man was putting it all together in a way no one could, and Clef himself was reveling in it, moving his body dynamically, transported, as was Stile, too, and the entire audience. What an experience! The music ended. Slowly, the emotion of the moment settled out of Stile. He descended from his high and came to grips with the onset of reality. He had, without question, been outplayed. If there was a finer musician in all the universe than Clef, Stile could hardly imagine it. Clef stood silent, eyes downcast. There was no applause from the audience. There was only the muted murmuring of the 5 musicians on the panel, comparing notes, consulting, arguing fine points. Stile wondered why they bothered. There was no question in anyone's mind who had played better. Stile had only torpedoed himself, explaining the secret of feeling to his opponent. The man had caught on brilliantly. Yet Stile could not really bring himself to regret it, despite the consequence. It had been such a pleasure to share the experience. His loss on the slot machine had been degrading, pointless, unsatisfying. His loss here was exhilarating. If it were ever worthwhile to sacrifice a kingdom for a song, this had been the song. Something of miraculous beauty had been created here, for a small time. It had been a peak of performance Stile knew he would never truly regret. Better this magnificent defeat than a cheap victory. The foreman of the musicians signaled the computer pickup. "Decision is ready." The computer's voice came immediately. "This dual performance has been declared the finest overall rendering of the instrument of the harmonica, and is therefore ensconced in the tourney archives as a lesson example. A special prize of 1 year's extension of tenure is awarded to the loser of this contest." Stile's head jerked up. Salvation! This was the prize slated for those who made it to the next round, that he had just missed. Not as good as a victory, but far, far better than a loss. The odd thing was that Clef seemed to be reacting identically. Why should he be concerned with an award to the loser? He should be flushed with the victory. "The advisory decision of the computer, Clef," the computer continued after a pause. "The advisory decision of the audience, as recorded by tabulation of those receiving the broadcast of this match, Clef." He, of course. Clef had won both the technical and social votes this time, deservedly. Stile walked across to shake his opponent's hand. "The decision of the panel of judges," the computer continued, "Stile." Stile extended his hand to Clef. "Congratulations," he said. "Therefore, the round goes to Stile," the computer concluded. Stile froze in mid-gesture. "What?" The computer answered him. "Advisory opinions do not have binding force. Stile is the winner of this contest. Please clear the chamber for ensuing matches." "But," Stile protested, dumbfounded. Then he was drowned out by the tumultuous applause of the local audience, abruptly augmented by that of the speaker system as it carried the reaction of the larger, unseen audience. Clef took him firmly by the arm, leading him through the colossal din to the exit. Bemused, unbelieving, Stile suffered himself to be guided out. A line of people had formed in the hall. At the head of it was a rifleman. The citizen grabbed Stile's hand and pumped it. "Congratulations!" he cried. "Magnificent performance!" Then the others were congratulating him in turn, until Sheen got to him and began running interference. Clef turned to leave. "Wait!" Stile cried. "You can't go! This is all wrong! You won! Has the planet gone crazy?" Clef smiled. "No, you won. I'm surprised you weren't aware." "You should enter a protest," Stile said. "You clearly outplayed me. I think you're the finest musician on the planet." Sheen guided them to seats on the capsule home. "I may be so. Now," Clef said, "you showed me how to elevate the major weakness in my skill. I owe it to you." "Then how?" Clef smiled. "It is always a pleasure to have the privilege of educating you as you educated me. You recall how we played separately to a split decision?" "Indeed," Stile said wryly. "And how you then explained to me the manner music is a participatory endeavor, not every man an island?" "Yes, of course. You proved to be an apt student." "A duet is a joint endeavor. Each must help the other, or it fails." "Of course, but—" "A man who plays well alone can play better in company, if he has proper support. Harmony and counterpoint enable a new dimension of effect." "Yes, I played better because I knew you would make no error." "Still, you played better yet. I think you improved more than I did." "I am sure this is the case, because you provided more support to me than I provided to you," Clef said. "I gave you merely good technical performance at the outset. You gave me the essence of feeling. You showed me how. I was never able to accomplish it on my own, but in tandem with you, I felt the living essence at last, the heart and spirit of music. I was infused by it. I merged with its potent pulse, and for the first time in my life, I flew." "And you won!" Stile cried. "I agree with everything you said. You and I both know you profited greatly and played my way better than I ever played in my life. You went from student to master in one phenomenal leap. Surely the panel of judges saw that." "Of course they did. I have known all the members of that panel for years, and they know me. We have played together often." And this panel of friends had given the match to Stile? Was it overcompensation? The capsule stopped. Sheen took each man by the arm and guided him on toward the apartment. "Therefore, you won," Stile said. "That's obvious." "Let me approach this from another angle, lest you be as obtuse as I was. If you play solo on one instrument and it is good, then play the same piece on another instrument of the same type, and it is better. Where lies the source of the improvement?" "In the instrument," Stile said. "My skill on similar instruments is presumed to be constant." "Precisely. Now, if you play a duet with one person, then with another, and your performance stands improved on the second, then probably the other player is superior, enabling me to—" Stile paused. It was beginning to penetrate. "If I improve because of the other player, it's him that really makes the difference." "When we played together, I improved more than you did," Clef said. "Who, then, contributed more to the joint effort? The one who flew to the heights, or the one who lifted him there?" "That duet was not to show individual expertise," Stile said, working it out. It was to show cooperative expertise, how each person fit in as part of a team. Yet surely the computer did not see it that way. The machine lacks the imagination, so it shouldn't have. The machine was not the final arbiter. The machine saw it that way, and their vote was decisive. The human mind remained more complex than the most sophisticated of machines. Of course the musicians had imposed their standard. So I supported your effort more than I supported yours. Cliff finished. You gave way to me. You made the sacrifice for the benefit of the peace. You were the better team player. You contributed more significantly to the total production. Therefore, you proved your overall participation to be better than mine. You would have made anyone shine. This is the subtle point the computer and audience missed, but the musical experts understood. They knew it was from you I derived the ability that enabled me to make the best individual performance of my life. You are the sort of musician who belongs in a group. Your talent facilitates that of others. Again, Stile thought of his many playing sessions with NASA, those happy hours writing. Their music had always been beautiful. I suppose so, he said, still amazed. Clef extended his hand. Now, permit me to congratulate you on your deserved victory. You are the better man, and I wish you well in the tourney. Victor, perhaps, thanks to an unusual judgment. Better man? No. Stile took the hand. But if you lost, you can no longer play here on Proton. I do have one more year, thanks to that special award. We did incidentally render the finest harmonica recital in the Proton records. But this becomes irrelevant. I no longer need Proton. You have given the universe to me. With the skill you have shown me, I can play anywhere for exorbitant fees. I can live like a citizen. I have gained so much more than I have lost. I suppose so, Stile said, relieved. A musician of your caliber, the best that any audience is likely to encounter. He paused, another massive realization coming upon him. Your preferred instrument is the flute? Clef raised that expressive eyebrow. Of course. My employer provides me with a silver flute, and rarely am I allowed to play on a gold one. One day I hope to be able to purchase such an instrument for myself. The tonal quality. How about a platinum flute? That would be the best of all. But it would depend on who made it. The craftsmanship is really more important than the metal, though the best craftsmanship does give any given metal significantly superior. But why dream foolishly? The only craftsmen capable of doing justice to platinum are far away on Earth. Sheen? Stile murmured. Sheen produced the platinum flute and handed it to Clef. The man took it with infinite respect and awe. Why, it is. It actually is. A finely grafted platinum instrument. I do not recognize this make, yet it seems excellently done. Who? Have aliens gone into the business? Elves, Stile said. Clef laughed. No, really, I must know. This is of considerably more than incidental interest to me. This instrument has a feel of ultimate quality. Moundfolk, little people. Among them, I'm a giant. They use magic in their trade. This is an enchanted flute, on loan to me until I pass it along to one who has better use for it than I do. I should have recognized you as a prospect the moment I met you, but I suspect I did not want to part with this magic instrument, and suppressed my own awareness. But I made a commitment and must honor it. At least I understand, now, how the elves felt about yielding the flute to me. It is hard to give up. I should think so. Clef's eyes were fixed on the flute as his hands turned it about. Light gleamed from it as it moved. The man seemed mesmerized by it. Then he lifted it to his lips. May I? Please do. I want to hear you play it. Clef played. The music poured out in its platinum stream, so pure and eloquent that Stile's whole body shivered in rapture. It was the finest sound ever created by man, he believed. Even Sheen showed human wonder on her face, an emotion prohibitively rare for a machine. Stile had not played it this well. Clef finished his piece and contemplated the flute. I must have this instrument. The price is high, Stile warned. Price is no object. My entire surf retirement payment is available. Not money. Life. You may have to give up both your tenure on Proton and your future as a professional musician in the galaxy. You would have to travel into a land of magic where your life would be threatened by monsters and spells to return the flute to its makers. And there is no guarantee they would allow you to keep it. They might require some significant and permanent service of you. There may be no escape from their control once you enter that region. They do not like men, but they are questing for a man they call the Foreordained, and exactly what he is expected to do, I do not know. But it is surely difficult and significant. Clef's eyes remained on the platinum flute. Show me the way. I can start you on that journey, but cannot remain with you once you enter the domain of the Platinum Elves. The flute will protect you. At need, it will become an excellent rapier. When you reach the mound, you will be in their power. I warn you again. I must go, Clef said. Stile spread his hands. Then the flute is yours, on loan until you determine whether you are, in fact, the Foreordained. I will take you across the curtain. Perhaps we shall meet again thereafter. Somehow he knew Clef would have no trouble crossing into Phaze. You took Hulk across, Sheen reminded him, when he returned. Some things transcend life and death, Stile said. What must be, must be. And he wondered, how could the Mound folk have known that Stile would encounter Clef, the man they evidently wanted, in this frame where they could not go? His meeting with Clef as an opponent in the tourney had been coincidental. Hadn't it? There we go, guys. That is the end of Chapter 9. Stile, once again, has advanced in the tournament through slightly unconventional means. He did not expect to have won that contest in the end. But Clef was very nice and explained to him how he did. So that was lovely and wonderful. Clef gets to have the platinum flute and possibly be the Foreordained. Only time will tell. You'll have to tune in next time to find out more. And Stile gets to move on in the tournament. It's very exciting. Well, guys, that is going to do it for me this evening. 3 chapters. I normally only get through 2, but these were shorter ones, so very happy to have been here to be able to provide them to you. Joy in general, always a pleasure to see you here with me for our Storytime nights. I hope you guys did enjoy the reading this evening. Remember, you can catch all of the chapters of this and the many other books that I have read on my YouTube channel. I like to think I've gotten better as I've gone, so the early ones may not be as good as the later ones, but hey, we all increase in our skill as we go along, right? But book 1, absolutely. Book 2, certainly. Of the Apprentice Adept series, those ones should be really good for you. Got some Xanth books out there as well. I got a Battletech one out there. I've got some from the Winter of the World. There's a variety out there for you to go and listen to. I hope you guys will stop by and check them out. I will be back again Tuesday with more story time, and we'll pick up into Chapter 10 and probably Chapter 11 of the Blue Adept. Until then, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your weekend, and I hope to see you guys all again really soon. If you didn't, and you haven't yet, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe on any of these things on whichever channel you happen to be on. Help me to continue to grow my channels, would ya? Have a great weekend, everybody. I'll see you guys again soon.